All right, I'm here with Tristan and we've uncovered a pretty sleazy situation of people trying to get their hands on your superannuation. In the wake of the Royal Commission, no less. Stick around, we'll be talking about it soon. We've encountered a firm or firms operating from Queensland that has been offering to help people get a better return on their superannuation, and we'd like to bring some attention to it so people don't get caught in the same ways we've seen someone else get caught. So can you explain what you've seen?
Thanks, Daniel. So it either starts with a cold call or when the victim, and I'll use the word victim as it's an appropriate term, is searching for a way to improve their super. These people aren't really sure what they're doing, but it feels right because they're doing something. And you might say it's head first into the spider's web.
And we've got one story of a person who you've helped out, but this is important to note. We've actually seen 5 of these stories this year, which sort of has us wondering how widespread is this?
Right, so James comes in with his girlfriend. Her dad's a client of mine, and we're looking through their financials, and James says, "Oh, we don't need to worry about my super. I've had some people fix it up for me." And I was like, well, bring it in anyway, it'll be part of the process. But I was keen to see what fixing entailed.
Yeah, I bet you would.
And so James had been with Tasplan, and someone had told him that Tasplan wasn't that good. And there's nothing wrong with Tasplan. It's a decent super fund, but the seed had already been planted.
Yeah, and that's interesting because there's a storm of information that people are trying to make sense of after the Royal Commission. The media's saying, you know, you've got to take control of your super, and someone else gets in James's ear and tells him that Tasplan's rubbish.
Yeah, so he goes online and finds some people specifically catering to helping you make the most of your super. You know the line, it's about you and your future.
Yeah, exactly. No one puts on their website that, hey, we're scumbags and we're going to rip you off.
Yeah, so he gets in contact with this crowd and they straight out promise him a better return, which is bull dust. They just cranked up the risk. They took him from Tasplan's balanced option and threw him into the highest growth option they had, and they said the returns would be covering his costs.
Yeah, the all important costs. So what were they?
Well, the fee to do this comes out of the rolled over funds immediately, and it's around 4%.
So they're clipping 4% off his balance just to do a rollover.
And that's not all. All the ongoing fees were much higher than his existing Tasplan account, which by the way wasn't shut down. They left that open with enough money to pay the insurance, and this is what we've seen them do. So they don't have to deal with any insurance issues. They'll offer a vague explanation like, we'll get a chance to review that later. And in this particular instance, it never happened later. And it's kind of like a ticking time bomb because they don't care about that account and it'll probably go inactive anyway.
Yeah, well, this just keeps getting better, doesn't it?
Well, there's more. He got a text message at one point when the markets were volatile, and it's pretty much said, look, markets are rough. Would you like us to put it into cash until things are clear?
You've got to be kidding me. So these people should be shot out of account, and this is like a 30-year retirement account, and they're trying to time the market.
Exactly. And he didn't really get the gist of the message, but he responded and said, yeah, that sounds great. So for the uninitiated, they probably think, oh, wow, these people are protecting me. But these messages arrive after the market's fallen a couple of percent. And of course, when do they get back in? When the market's back up a couple of percent, meaning the investor loses thousands. And from what I can see, the fund returned double digits when he's been in it, yet his return is about 4%.
That's basically kind of like the Dalbar scenario, and the Dalbar report has some question marks over its validity, but in a way, like, these people have basically managed to put it into practice with someone's portfolio.
Oh, it's uncanny.
Yeah, so for any industry people who are seeing this, just spell out what was absent from this process.
Well, we didn't see a statement of advice. There wasn't any risk profiling done. There was no attempt to understand James beyond, would you like a higher return? Well, wouldn't we all? But what do I need to do to get it? And there was no fee disclosure comparisons. So it's hard to tell if it was in his best interests. But I'm going to go out on a very strong branch and suggest that it wasn't. In my mind, it was a bit of a stinking cash grab.
So you've cleaned up this mess, and now you're trying to get that initial fee refunded, right?
Correct, yeah. And like you said, this is one of a few instances, and we're actually in a regional area. If they're in Queensland and doing this all around Australia, how many people have they caught out?
Yeah, and in the wake of the Royal Commission, no less. So you've got to love Australian ingenuity, don't you?
Like you said, they should be shot out of a cannon.
So what's the solution for avoiding this type of rubbish if people are out there looking for wanting to change their superannuation, or being prompted, or being someone told that your super fund's no good, probably first off just ignore those people, maybe. But how do you avoid these types of scenarios?
For starters, I'd say get some advice, some good advice. But people would say, well, you're going to say that because you're an advisor. But the sad thing is James technically went and got some advice, and this is what he ended up with. The other thing is too, there's a big educational push, degree standards right now in the financial industry, but we looked at some of the advisors involved in this circus and they've got degrees. I've got a degree too. It doesn't signify anything about my ethics or whether I put my clients first.
And I've seen you quite fired up about this.
Well, it's people's retirements, but if people encounter anything like this suggesting they can get you a better return, put the phone down. If it doesn't make it into the conversation, how do they get a better return? Because guaranteeing it isn't possible. Ask, are they just taking on more risk? And immediately ask what the fees will be to be rolled over.
All right, thanks, Tristan. There's a lot to think about there. Hopefully not too many people have been caught out by this.